You've been in a room full of people, laughing at the right moments, nodding along, saying all the right things, and still felt completely, utterly alone. Not lonely in the way people talk about, something quieter than that, something heavier. Like you're watching everyone else connect through glass, and no matter how hard you press your hands against it, you can't get through. If that sentence just hit you somewhere deep, keep watching. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't what most people say about this. It's not about being awkward, it's not about lacking social skills, and it is definitely not about being broken. Picture this. It's a Friday night. You got invited to a gathering. You almost didn't go, but you told yourself to try. So you showed up. You stood in the kitchen holding a drink you didn't really want, listening to a conversation about someone's cousin's drama, and you smiled. You nodded. You performed. And then you drove home alone, sat in your car in the driveway for a few minutes and thought, why do I always feel like this? You weren't rude, you weren't antisocial, you tried, but the whole night felt like wearing shoes on the wrong feet. Technically fine, quietly painful the entire time. Here's what nobody tells you about that feeling. It's not a flaw, it's a signal. And once you understand what it's actually telling you, your entire relationship with friendship, with people, with yourself will start to shift. Most people don't notice fake. They walk right past it. They shake hands with it, laugh at its jokes, invite it to their birthday. But you see it almost immediately. The slightly rehearsed laugh, the compliment that lands a half second too late. The person who listens just long enough to find their next opening to talk about themselves. You pick up on all of it, and it exhausts you in a way that's almost impossible to explain to someone who doesn't experience it. Research in social psychology has consistently found that people with higher levels of self-awareness are also significantly more sensitive to inauthenticity in others. Your brain has essentially been trained through years of observation and reflection to detect when something is off. But here's the cruel irony of it. The very thing that protects you also isolates you, because when your bar for genuine connection is that high, most social spaces feel like deserts, technically full of people, spiritually empty. You walk into a room and within minutes you're processing, not intentionally, not consciously, it just happens. You're reading the dynamic between two people standing by the wall. You're noticing the one person who looks slightly uncomfortable and wondering if anyone else sees it. And then later, alone in your room, the replay starts. Did I say that weird? Were they actually laughing or just being polite? Did I talk too much? Not enough? Did I seem like I was trying too hard? The conversation is over, but for you, it hasn't ended yet. It plays on loop, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. Here's what I want you to hear clearly. That is not a character flaw. That is an extraordinarily sensitive mind doing what it was wired to do. Think about when you were younger. Maybe you had a small group, maybe just one friend who really got you. And then something shifted. People moved or changed, or the friendship quietly fell apart. And you noticed, maybe for the first time, that making new ones wasn't easy, not the way it seemed to be for everyone else. Other people seemed to drift into friendships like leaves in a current, effortless, natural. But for you, it felt deliberate, calculated. Psychologists have a term for this experience, social incongruence, the feeling of being fundamentally misaligned with your social environment, like your internal world and the world around you are operating on different frequencies. But here's the pause I want you to take right now. What if that incongruence was never a sign that something was wrong with you? What if it was a sign that you were somewhere that wasn't built for you? Some of the loneliness you feel isn't just about not having people around. It's the loneliness of being deeply misunderstood by the people who are around. It's smiling through a conversation and thinking, if you knew what was actually going on in my head right now, you'd be surprised. And so you've learned to present a version of yourself that is easier for the world to receive. The full version waits and keeps waiting. Here's the quiet devastation of that. Over time, if you don't let people see the real version, you start to believe the real version isn't wanted. You start to confuse the absence of people who understand you with the absence of people who could. Those are not the same thing. You know how some people seem to have 40 friends and still feel empty? Someone surrounded constantly, always busy, always social, and yet somehow hollowed out, chasing connection in numbers because they don't know how to find it in depth. And then there's you. Maybe 2 people in your life you genuinely trust, maybe 1. And yet, when you're with them, something settles in you, something that has no name but feels like finally. Psychology has actually studied this. Research consistently shows that the quality of social bonds matters exponentially more than the quantity. People with a small number of deeply trusting relationships report higher levels of emotional well-being than those with large but shallow social networks. Here's the twist. The people who struggle the most to make friends, the overthinkers, the deeply sensitive ones, the ones who feel too much and notice too much, they almost always become the friends other people wish they had found sooner. Because when someone like you finally trusts a person, really trusts them, you show up differently than most people do. You remember the small things. You notice when something is off before they've even said a word. You ask the real questions. You don't disappear when things get hard. The same traits that made forming friendships difficult are the exact traits that make you irreplaceable in one. The depth that felt like a burden becomes a gift. The sensitivity that exhausted you in crowds becomes the reason someone finally feels seen. If you've spent years quietly wondering what was wrong with you, because friendships never came easily, because small talk made you want to disappear, because you kept finding yourself on the outside of social circles that never quite felt like home, nothing was wrong with you. You were just waiting, maybe without fully knowing it, for the kind of connection that actually means something. You don't need more friends, you need real ones. And the fact that you've held out this long, that you never settled, that you chose silence over pretending, that says something remarkable about you. It always did.